listening to the Autism 411 podcast with Dr. Tamara Moodie from the South Florida Autism Charter School.
Welcome to another edition of the Autism 411 podcast from South Florida Autism Charter Schools. I'm John Rogger alongside Dr. Tamara Moodie, your host for the program. And today we're going to have a special topic talking about siblings and autism. Hello, Dr. Moodie. How are you today?
I'm doing very well. Thank you so much for having me. This is a very special topic to me. I've gotten a lot of parents asking questions, and in my last couple of years, I've done a bunch of workshops, and I'm always left with being very impressed, also being very concerned at the same time. So I'm very happy to have Mr. Y be my guest today, and I'm excited to hear what he has to say and what he has to share.
Certainly. You know, Mr. Y, obviously, for those who are not familiar, he's one of your employees here at the school, but he's also a family member he has a brother that has autism, so this is something that's in his world that he kind of knows, and it really does give us the opportunity to hear a perspective of a family side, because a lot of times we're just talking about the structure of it, or we're talking about what autism is, but we don't really bring in that human factor, which is what do relatives feel, what do brothers and sisters feel when they have a child or they have a family member that's on the spectrum in their own family.
Yes, I think it's extremely important, and that's one of the things that I've always prided ourselves, SVACs, is that we look and see what we need to be doing in the community, and this is why we have these topics and we have these workshops, and I want our listeners to know that we're going to be doing this on a monthly basis. We're going to be bringing in folks so we could bring that human factor to what we're doing, and hopefully with us doing that, it will be able to help those who are listening, because I think it's important that you know you're not by yourself, that there's people out there that's experiencing the same thing, and I hope at the end of all these different podcasts that folks are left softer, feeling better, feeling like, wow, okay, it's not just me, you know?
That makes a lot of sense. Well, let's go ahead and introduce Mr. Y then.
Hi, how are you?
Hey, great. How's your day?
Good.
Awesome.
So autism and being a sibling. Who is older? You or your brother?
Me.
Yeah.
By 9 years.
By 9 years. Wow.
Yeah.
How's that been for you?
At first, it was tough.
What do you mean tough? Define tough.
During my high school years, I used to go to sleep at 2, 3 a.m. because he would be awake until late at night.
And how, I often wonder, working in the field, how did your parents explain that to you? Because you're 9 years older, he's 1 year old and you're 10. So how did they explain that, your brother's a little bit different? I'm so sorry that you have to wake up or you go to sleep so late or so early. How did they explain that so that you don't have any kind of resentment? Because I've done many workshops with siblings over the years. From 3 years old to 40-something years old, I have met with siblings. And one of the things that I often, it's been difficult for me as a professional in the field is how I can support the siblings, right? How can I be the principal to them as well, or that person that they feel like they could talk to as well? Because I think it's important that they have a voice and that they feel like there's someone that they can talk to. So who did you talk to?
Getting to this country in 1998, I was 9 years old, and my brother was born the January of the same year. We got into this country in May 10th. So my mom would take me everywhere with her because she didn't have anybody to leave me with. It was just my mom, dad, my brother, and my grandfather who helped us get here. So she didn't have anybody to leave us with during the day, so she would take me along with her to all of his appointments. I remember his first appointment with a psychiatrist in, I believe, Jackson. They told her that he wouldn't be able to turn on a light. They told her he would have lots of limitations in his life, and he has proven all of them wrong.
Yes, I remember when I first got him as a student, I'm proud to say he did not speak, and now he speaks.
Yeah.
So that was an accomplishment I was able to see because I saw it firsthand. But then how did that make you feel? Because did you feel that burden? And I hate to use the word burden, but did you feel that, oh my God, I'm going to have to take care of him now because what's going to happen?
Yeah. Lots of times my friends will go out and I would tell them, hey, I can't come. I'm watching my brother, my parents are doing the groceries, or they have to visit a family member because they're sick. So I would miss out on some social interactions with my peers of the same age But like I understood that it was a necessary thing for like the cohesion of my family.
But then how do you explain that to other siblings though? Because I think it's important that like a person like you that's in the field and you're doing so amazing. I've never seen you feel stressed, look stressed, not able to function. You function quite well. Well, we've had a couple of tardies,
right?
Because I know that, behaviors or whatever, but for the most part, you've been amazing. So how would you tell a person that sibling just got diagnosed and how to be as positive and a role model that you are? How do you teach? What would you tell them? What kind of thing that you could tell them so that they could be who you are? Because you're amazing.
I would tell them that in life we have to deal with the hand that we are dealt, and the faster they come to the conclusion that this is a situation that they just need to break through and understand that their sibling is different, but that doesn't mean they don't have the capability to grow and learn the same way they do. Like at a younger age, I remember without even knowing it, I was teaching him how to tact. Like I would want him to give me the remote and I would go up to and I would tell him remote and point to it and he wouldn't. But then I would go up to it, I'm gonna hold up the remote and I'd be like remote and point to it, remote. And then I'd give it to him and I'd put it back where it was and then I'd go up to him and I would sit next to him and I would tell him remote. And then he would get up and go get it and give it to me.
Already you were doing ABA even before you start working at SFAX. That's amazing. But I still think that there must have been something. There must have been, was that just natural or something your parent did or something your parents said? Because I hear this on a daily basis, that parents are struggling with their neurotypical child that is just having a hard time with their siblings having autism. So did your parents have a talk with you? Or it's just because you just had to, or maybe it's a generation, who knows, right? But why do you think that the generation of siblings that I'm seeing now, not all, but some, is struggling so much with the fact that they have a brother or sister with autism?
It could be lack of understanding because maybe the parents are shielding them from the truth, not laying all the facts on the table. So they may not understand that, like, hey, once mom and dad are gone, you're going to have to carry on with your brother.
Yeah.
And they haven't come to that conclusion yet because, like I said, their parents may be shielding them from that fact because it is a hard fact that now you have to gear your life around somebody that is part of your family.
Yeah. So, I just have to ask. So, I know your parents, right? Mm-hmm. So what's going to happen? Like, have they thought of that? Because at the end of the day, when I meet with parents and they ask me these questions, and this was why I felt that I needed to have you on, because I felt like you were so positive, always looked like everything was well set and put together. When your parents are no longer around, doesn't that make you feel like, because now I'm going to have to take on that responsibility? You're going to get married one day, and your spouse may give you that, be okay at first, but your brother is a big boy. He's a big man. Yeah. He's a man, right? You're going to be placed in situations sometimes that it's going to be difficult for your other family. And I know he's your ultimate family because he's first, right? But do you ever feel like, gosh, I'm tired?
Yeah, there are days that are harder than others, but the end goal is the more he can do for himself, the less that I have to do for him when the time comes. And that's what we should all strive for. Because I think a lot of parents and siblings realize the older our kids get, the more they can do for themselves, the less we not have to do for them, the less help they will need when their parents get older and can't help them anymore. Yeah. Because past a certain age, like you said, he's a big boy. My parents are now in their 50s. My dad is in his mid 60s. If my brother had not learned years ago how to do certain things for himself, maybe my parents nowadays would not be able to help him with those things that he might need help with when I'm not in the house, for example.
Yeah. So you've been working with me now for how long?
Since 2011.
Wow. Woo, 10 years. Woo. 10 years to work for Dr. Moodie. That's not easy. But I remember when you first interviewed, and, I think you were one of the first siblings I hired to work in our school. Did you find that it was difficult working here And our job is not easy. And having to go home and also work with your brother, or did you find that it was easier because you worked here and because you kind of like picked up on certain things that it made it easier for you when you were home? Because I often hear parents say, oh, I couldn't work there and go home and have to deal with autism. It's hard. But did you find it that it was harder, or do you think that it was beneficial?
I think it made it easier. After the first training with Miss Sarah Bartlett, I took home the page that has all like the ABA terms. I showed it to my mom and I'm like, oh, here's why he does certain things he does.
Yeah.
Here's how we can help him with this. Here's how we can help him with that. When he does this and we want to continue this behavior, we need to do positive reinforcement. I explained to her why he stimmed. Mm-hmm. I explained to her that even if he says a word that's not said in the best way, but it's an approximation, it's still a word. He is communicating.
And we need to celebrate those.
Right.
Because that's the only way we're going to get him to continue doing that. So, I think it's important that I get your voice out there so that other siblings could hear the things that you're saying. Because did you hear of workshops that you could have gone to when you were growing up? Were they SIB workshops like the ones, because I know you've been to my sibling workshops before in the past. You've actually helped me host some of my sibling workshops in the past. When you were growing up, was there that kind of support for you?
No, back in the day, I don't remember any workshops nowadays. I'm sure if you look, you will find them. Social media helps a lot with that.
Okay.
And like you said, we provide them. So
yeah, we provide them. Yeah. Because I think it's important that you guys are not the forgotten people in the home. I think it's important that you don't miss out on those events that your friends are going to, that you still get to be a child. I think that's important. And I'm happy to see that you're still okay, because even though you missed out on some of the things, I hope you didn't miss out on everything. I hope you did get an opportunity.
I did.
Okay, good to know. So if it's one thing that you could leave us with, like a thought, a phrase, that you feel the siblings need to live by, like what would that be?
I think siblings need to make themselves part of their sibling with a disability's life. Like they need to know the facts about what's going on in their life. Mm-hmm. Like for example, my brother went to a elementary school, and the elementary school is going on field trips every week. And I told my mom, what learning is he doing there if he's going on field trips every week?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I'm curious, who found SBOX for your brother, you or your parents?
My parents.
Okay. And why did you want to work here?
Curiosity? To better understand him, and curiosity when I was volunteering as well.
Yeah. Yeah, I totally forgot that you volunteered first before you actually start working with us. And if you could give a parent some advice on how to approach the neurotypical child that's home, so there's no resentment or there's no sense of burden, what would you tell a parent?
I wouldn't say be blunt about the facts, but don't shield your neurotypical child from the ultimate truth.
Yeah. I've always told parents that the neurotypical child should be a part of the village. They should be the biggest part of the village. Like you shouldn't decide, well, he's going to go to this therapist. No, it should be, we're getting together, we're going to interview together, especially if you're going to be a part of this person's life forever. One of the things that I like about your setup with your parents is that you come to my trainings. So those of you guys who are listening, South Florida Autism Charter School parents has to do 4 trainings every year with me. I believe this is important for generalization, so that the siblings, so that the parents know what we're doing in school, so they understand what it means to get guardianship and special needs trust, how to get on the waiver and so forth. And you've come to those trainings for your parents. And I think that is big, because I always tell parents, you can't wait until you're no longer around the person who's going to take your child. That's when they're trying to understand how to work with their child. So every time I see you at a training, I always thought it was really pretty cool that you were coming and you were understanding. Not that you didn't know because you worked at the school, but that you were still coming, and you were still learning, because sometimes the way I approach certain things with the teachers is different from the way I approach it with the parents. And I've always thought that was really good that you did that. You took time out of your Saturdays to do that for your brother. So tell me a little bit about how he's doing. I haven't seen him for a while because of the pandemic. And he's also aged out.
Right. We thought he was going to take being stuck at home very badly, but I spoke with him the way I usually speak with him when I need to change something in his schedule. I sit him down, I tell him we're going to talk, and then I start off with, we're going to fix it. And that's when he gets a little anxious and he pays a lot of attention, because when I tell him we're going to fix it, means I'm taking something away, but I'm replacing it with something else. So that was back when the school was still being built. So I took a couple of pictures of like the construction site, and I told him, I kind of lied to him. I told him, we're going to fix it. Look, school is broken. We're going to fix it. And then, you know, when the time came that he needed to return to school in September, I still kind of told him the school was still broken and I was going to go fix it. That's why I was leaving in the morning and put him on my uniform shirt.
Because he's so used to coming with you in the morning.
Right.
Yes.
But he took the pandemic pretty well. Like I said, we thought he was not going to take it well at all. So he's just waiting for the day to come back when the new school year starts.
Yes, I can't wait to see him. He's probably like such a big man now.
Yeah.
I feel like I haven't seen a lot of my students forever. It's almost 2 years, if it's not already. Like, it feels like it's for a very long time.
Yeah.
I think that you're doing a remarkable job. I hope that other siblings are listening to this. And I've always, I've been telling folks that's been listening to our podcast that if they want any more information, feel free to shoot us an email, info@sfacs.org. Would you be willing to answer some of those questions if a sibling writes, you know, to, hey, Mr. Y, you know, so I'm a sibling and I'm having a hard time dealing with my brother's behavior. Could you give me some feedback? Would that be something that you think that you will be able to do if we get those?
Yeah, I'll gladly help out.
But I want to throw something out at you because this is one of the ones that gave me a hard time. I had a sibling ask me a couple months ago, you know, a parent called me and was talking to me about it. You know, I just, Dr. Moodie, I hate the fact that I feel like I have to be responsible. Like, I have to be responsible. And I said, what do you mean by that? You know, the mom was telling me that her child, because everything that is being said is almost if I have to take my brother, or, you know, and I don't know if I want to. I'm about to go off to college and I don't know if I want to come back, you know, and this parent she was really sad when she was talking to me about that. And I told her to have him call me, and he hasn't called yet. I hope he's listening, because I think that your knowledge and your voice and just your experience will be beneficial to that particular family and that brother who's going off to college any day now and is thinking that he doesn't want to come back home because he's lost so much. And his big thing was, and I don't know if you experienced this, was the embarrassment. And when I was asking, like, the mother, what do you mean the embarrassment? He would take off his clothes in public. He would strip. You know, we would be in a restaurant and then they would be screaming and everybody's staring, and we had to leave, and, you know, and he's like, I'm happy I'm leaving because I need this 4 years of just be able to go to a restaurant and just eat like anybody else. An advice for him, because I need him to come back home. I think it's important that he comes back home and still be a part of his sibling life. And I know you've said that, you know, it's just one of those things you just have to, but it's just not one of those things for everyone. I think you're a different breed. I think you're an awesome guy. But that person who's struggling with it.
When it comes to the embarrassment part, I think that's just something society needs to work on, and we are working towards a better future by raising awareness. Because I feel like once society catches on that, like, hey, there are different individuals among us, and they're different, but not in a negative way. They're just different, and that's it. We should just accept everybody for who they are, because we're all different in lots of ways. So the embarrassment factor, that will fade in time. Now, him feeling like he doesn't want to come back, I understand we all need our decompression time. I think he might change his mind once he spends more time in college and learns a bit more about other areas of expertise. They might raise his awareness and heighten his mental state to a more mature state where he's like, okay, this is not, for lack of a better metaphor, this is not a dog that somebody's like, hey, can you take care of my pet? This is your family member.
Yeah, it's your blood.
Would you want them to do that for you if, he was neurotypical and suddenly you're now in a car crash and you can't walk? Or if you're paralyzed? Now they have to take care of you.
Mm-hmm.
When the tables turn, how would you feel if you were on the other side?
Yeah. So I've learned a lot about your family and I've known you for 10 years just by sitting here. I think I have more respect for you now than I had a half an hour ago, just by listening to you talk about your brother. If there's something that SFACS can do for the community or for siblings, what do you think that would be?
I think we're already doing it. We just need to get the word out there and spread through the whole of South Florida to raise awareness, so we don't have any siblings like this person in this case feeling embarrassed that the brother is having behaviors in public and people are just watching. I think we just need to get to a point as a society where we see somebody acting different and go, oh, that must be a person with special needs. And that's it.
Yeah.
Not make a big fuzz out of it.
Well, thank you so much for joining me today. You were amazing. I'm left speechless, and I'm left with also feeling good about SFACS, that we're on the right track, and that we should probably work on bringing more awareness to the job that we're doing here. And I want to end by saying I'm so thankful and happy that you're a part of our wonderful team, and that your family is a part of our family.
Thank you for having me.
Well, that was fantastic, Dr. Moodie, listening to Mr. Y's story. There's so many folks out there, I'm sure, that have that same problem like you brought up with the individual who is trying to think of what to do in their life. And that has to be one of the most difficult decisions, because he's right. If you have a family member that were to get into a car accident and lose an arm or have to relearn how to walk, you would want to be there for that family member. And then likewise, when you have a relative that has autism, you want to be there for them like that. It's a lifelong commitment, but it is very challenging because, as you said, he's going to college. He's maybe thinking about finding someone to be in love with, might have a family, might want to move to Colorado, but because he needs to come back, he's thinking, this is not what I wanted. This is not what I wanted in life. And you know what? We find a lot of times, sometimes you just can't have what you thought you were going to have in life if you really deeply care about those that are around you.
And I also, while I agree with Mr. Y, I think that he's amazing. He's just an amazing soul just sitting here talking. And I agree with what you just said. I just also think that not everyone can do it. And we shouldn't judge those who can't, but we should give them the tools that they need, and give them the tools, give them the support, and give them the understanding too. Because honestly, I don't have a child with autism. I know that's a question that's asked of me a lot, but I have a lot of children with autism at the same time, right? And I just feel like, if, and this is a topic we're going to talk about later on, if putting a child in a home is the best thing for them, and you go and visit, because you just can't be that caretaker, maybe it's also not a bad thing. I just think what's the bad thing is that you put them there and then you don't go back.
That's what I was going to ask you, actually. I was really glad that you brought that up, because, what happens if I'm not a person that can handle that, right? Like, let's just say I just can't do it. I can't take care of them forever, and I need to do something with them. I can't just leave them alone. They're my family. I was going to ask you, what do you do? And you mentioned a home is one option.
Yes.
What are other options that families have if it's just the one brother or the one sister that's left? Parents are getting old, grandparents are gone. What do you do?
Well, residential is a big thing in Florida that folks are doing. We at SFACS is planning on doing a villages, and we should be starting to talk about that in the next couple of years from now. And those are just, there's not a lot of options, unfortunately, and it's expensive options that's out there as well, and the ones who are not expensive may not be where the parents would like their children to go. So that's why I think, it's a community. So the siblings and the parents need to make these decisions already start talking about what's going to happen. Mom, I want to live in one of my daughters want to live in California. If I did have a sibling, if she did have a sibling, I would have those conversations with her and be like, yes, that's great that you want to live in, and I'm okay with that. I'm supportive of that. But is it possible for us to like maybe move to California while I'm still kicking, so that I know that it's close by where you are, because we don't want the siblings to be by themselves forever, but at least within driving distance, because it's okay. It's okay to feel like I can't do this, because not every sibling's job is gonna give them if they join the military, they may not be able to provide that care in their home because they're living on base. They may have a job that takes them away from SVACs, but you're going to take them away from the one family, the one constant, which is us. So, so there's all these different obstacles, and there's all these different things that may prohibit the child from living with their sibling. But I think that's okay, though, as long as it's done the right way. It's done as it's talked about now. This is why my upcoming workshop on residential and guardianship and special needs trust is extremely important, because those are the things that we need to consider and to be talked about. It's not things that need to be talked about when we're no longer around.
Definitely. One that you should definitely be talking about early on and learning as much as possible, because they're some of the most important parts of having a child with autism. And I'm really glad you brought up the villages and the plan that you guys have here. That's, breaking for a minute. That's one thing that for my family, because that I have 2 children with autism and our family is disabled. And one of the things that we talked about when we were first looking at SVACs was, hey, do you see this, what they're trying to build here? They're trying to build a residential that's not just a residential. It's a residential that's a part of the community that they've grown up with. People that are going to be there are alumni of the school. People that are going to work there are people they worked with when they were going to first grade and second grade. This is a family, and what really makes a huge difference is it lets them have an opportunity to be with people they know while maybe living independently, which is something that I think it seems like almost every family wants to see an autistic child be able to thrive and not have to rely on parents. But that doesn't mean you leave and never come back.
Yeah.
They're your kids. You want to come by and see them.
Yeah. Yeah, it's autism it's not easy, but I think that planning and preparing as best as you can. Of course, there's no perfect plan, right? And you could prepare all you want and things don't work out the way you wish. But if you start the conversation and you build on that village, I'm a big believer in that village need to be strong, and that village need to be revisited like every so often. Make sure the same people are still a part of that decision making, and bring the siblings in a part of the decision. They have to feel like they're a part of. They can't feel like they're forced to.
Makes a lot of sense. Dr. Tamara Moodie with the South Florida Autism Charter School. You're listening to the Autism 411 podcast. Dr. Moodie, if they want to reach you, if they have questions, or maybe they want to talk to Mr. Y, again, what is some ways that they can reach you? info@sfacs.org, or you could follow us on our Facebook, Instagram, and shoot us a message, and we will promise we will get back to you as quickly as possible. Well, thank you very much. It's always a pleasure to talk with you, and we look forward to another podcast coming up soon.
Thank you.
This has been the Autism 411 podcast with Dr. Tamara Moodie from the South Florida Autism Charter School. To learn more, visit sfacs.org.